Das ist viele, also das Beispiel passt hier nicht, also aber kann uns helfen, die Situation zu verstehen. Wir hören immer, dass dieser Lehrer hat so viel Kenntnis, hat so viel Wissen, aber diese Person kann nicht beibringen, kann nicht unterrichten. Also es gibt diese Brücke nicht. Die Studenten können nicht verstehen, was er sagen will. Oder die Person denkt, dass alles selbsterklärend ist und gibt nicht so viel Mühe, das in der Sprache von den Studenten zu erklären. So, wir brauchen eine Brücke, also einen Übergang, dass der Text verstanden wird. So, ähm, also die Zielgruppe und also der Zweck oder das Ziel, warum der Text übersetzt wird, das sollen wir im Kopf halten. So, wenn wir das nicht oder wenn wir darauf nicht achten, dann können wir das nicht richtig übersetzen. Das meine ich.
Danke. So heißt es, dass die Übersetzung auch davon abhängt, wer der Zielempfänger ist. Du hast ja ein
Ja.
Beispiel von einem Kinderbuch genannt, das also normalerweise der Zielempfänger, die Zielempfänger sind die Kinder. Äh, und das heißt, wenn wir den Text, sagen wir mal, ins Englische übersetzen, sollten wir auch darauf achten, wie die Kinderliteratur im Englischen verfasst wird und wie die Sprache ist und so weiter. Und das müssen wir auch in unserer Übersetzung behalten. Ne? Äh, aber wenn der Zielempfänger vielleicht ein Literaturwissenschaftler ist, der irgendwie nee, vergessen wir Literaturwissenschaftler, wer anders. Wenn ein Erwachsener, nehmen wir das Beispiel von Grimm-Märchen, ne? Die sind sowohl für Erwachsene übersetzt worden als auch für Kinder. Gibt es dann Unterschied zwischen den Übersetzungen, je nach dem, wer der Empfänger, wer der Rezipient ist? Was meint ihr? If things are not clear to you all, please tell me. I will switch my language, you know, or try to make it easier. But I expect questions and doubts and inputs from each one of you. This is not a lecture, this is a conversation. So the more you all ask, more you, and there is nothing like a dumb question, a wrong question. You have to feel involved. Only then things will get clear. Otherwise, the material is in any case uploaded in Google Classroom. You can read it on your own, and you know, uh, no need to be waste your sleep by coming here early morning at 9:30. So, for example, the Grimm's fairy tales. mm, uh, They have been translated both for children as well as adults. Do you think there would be a difference in how they have been translated? Yes. So the lexic, the would be different. Can you give some? I mean, can you think of something? It need not be from Grimm's, but generally. Gautam? Uh, yeah. I'm able to hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. So, I mean, it can also be said that there is lesser abstraction and more concrete uh, concepts are presented. Okay, that could be one thing. What else? How about inhaltlich? Mm. I mean, one is this, but what else could be different? Um, if a fairy tale were being translated for children and if it were being translated for adults. I don't know how many of you have read Grimm's Märchen, uh, but very often they are quite violent also. But if you look at the children's version, it is usually sanitized of this violence, blood, bloodshed, etc. Even a Märchen like Hans im Glück, I think, has any one of you read it? I mean, if you think of I know that some of you have done Märchen in your courses. Nidhi, which Märchen did you all do in your second semester of bachelor's? Shubhangi, Deepti?
Bruder und Schwester, Sternteller, Ritter
Okay.
Blaubart.
Mm-hmm. What happens in Sterntaler? Or for that matter, in Bruderchen, Schwesterchen? Is there any kind of violence there?
No, in Sternteller, the girl was very kind. She kept giving away all her belongings to the needy ones. And later the stars turn into coins, I guess. I don't remember clearly, and they start falling to her. This was like something. There was not at all any kind of violence.
And in Bruder and Schwester, there was some magic there that the brother was changed into the deer.
Mm-hmm. How many of you have seen the film, the Disney version of the fairy tale Cinderella? Cinderella, yes, Aschenputtel, or know the story of Cinderella? Not a single one.
मैंने पढ़ा है मैम।
हाँ, उसमें क्या होता है प्रतिभा?
उसमें वो ये एक उसके दो स्टेप, एक स्टेप बहन होती है और ये किए होती है, सिंड्रेला होती है। तो अपनी बेटियों को तो उसकी माँ बहुत अच्छे से रखती है, और जो राजकुमार शादी के लिए जब बोलता है तो वो चाहती है कि हमारी बेटी से करें, पर ये सिंड्रेला का भी जाने का इच्छा होता है। फिर वहाँ जाती है और इसको जो वो मैजिक बॉक्स होता है, मे भी शायद मैजिक बॉक्स ही था, तो उससे ये इसको अच्छे कपड़े और जूते वगैरह मिलते हैं। फिर ये जाती है और इसका जल्दी जल्दी में आने के कारण, क्योंकि रात के 12 बजे के बाद जो है ये अपने रूप में आ जाएगी, इसलिए उसके जूते वहीं पे छूट जाते हैं। तो और ये चली आती है, और जो वहाँ का वो था प्रिंस था, उसको यही पसंद आती है, डांस करता है तो यही पसंद आती है। फिर वो ये तो अचानक से चली आती है, तो उसके जूते के नाप से वो पूरे शहर में खोज करवाता है कि किसके नाप के हैं। तो इसकी जो बहन थी वो बहुत कोशिश करती है अपने पैरों में एडजस्ट करने की, पर नहीं होती है। फिर ये आके करती है तो हो जाती है। फिर इससे जो है प्रिंस शादी करता है।
थैंक यू। तो अब जैसे अगर इसी का एग्जाम्पल ले लें, तो जो ओरिजिनल ग्रिम मैशन है, उसमें दिखाते हैं कि जब उसकी जो सौतेली बहन है बहनें, एक्चुअली 2 बहनें हैं। उन लोगों के पास जब वो जूता आता है तो उसमें से एक देखती है कि उसका पाँव बहुत बड़ा है, तो वो अपने जो है पाँव की उँगलियाँ काट देती है और खून बहने लगता है, तब भी वो किसी तरह से उसको पहनती है। तो दिस इज द बट अगर वही चीज जो है हम लोग बच्चों वाले वर्जन में देखते हैं तो इसको सैनिटाइज कर दिया गया है। कैसे सैनिटाइज किया है कि ये दिस मेंशन ऑफ ब्लड एंड ऑल हैज बीन टेकन अवे फ्रॉम इट एंड जस्ट सेड कि उसको जूता फिट नहीं आता। तो दीज काइंड ऑफ inhaltliche Veränderungen also happen depending on who the Zielempfänger is. What we were what we were trying to point to. Um, Chitwan, one question to you. You said that, die Kenntnis des Initiators ist wichtig, damit man äh, äh, den Zweck weiß, nicht wahr?
Hm. Hm.
Kann man, also hier haben wir nur das Beispiel von literarischen Texten genommen, also wo ich über Kinderliteratur gesprochen habe und so weiter.
Hm.
Ist es auch wichtig, diese Kenntnis zu besitzen, wenn man einen, sagen wir mal, einen technischen Text übersetzt?
Deswegen suchen wir dann Paralleltexte oder Hintergrundtexte, ne? Auch wenn wir die Kenntnis nicht haben.
Richtig. Aber ich meine, warum
Mhm.
sollen wir als Übersetzer wissen,
Mhm.
wer der Initiator des Übersetzungsauftrags ist
Ja.
bei technischen Texten?
Äh, also, äh, 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 mm, ähm, also er ist eigentlich der Auftraggeber, ne?
In meisten Fällen ja.
Ja. So, wir müssen die Wünsche des Auftragsgebers dann erfüllen. Und das können wir in richtigem Maß nur dann tun, wenn wir wissen, wer diese Person ist.
Okay, wir bleiben dabei, also für jetzt nur mit dem, was du gesagt hast. Später werden wir das auch ausführlicher besprechen. Aber danke, Chitwan. Also wir haben ja gesehen, dass es zwei Arten des Hilfsmittels gibt. Einmal diejenigen, die beim Sachwissen, also beim Erwerb des Sachwissens helfen, und die anderen, die uns nützlich sind, wenn wir das Sprachwissen erwerben wollen. Und also Hintergrundtexte dienen zum Sachwissenerwerb und Paralleltexte zu Sprachwissenerwerb. Okay, wir gehen dann weiter zu dem Teil, ich glaube, das war Deeptis Teil, ne? Deepti?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, please.
ज़्यादा क्लियरली तो मैम मेरे को भी नहीं आया, बट जितना आया मैं उतना एक्सप्लेन करती हूँ.
हाँ.
The initiator presents the introductory part of the text to a receiver through the verbal communication action, and the translator or anyone who conveys the message of the text should have the comprehensive knowledge of the subject, which allows him to make an appropriate selection of the facts so to put them in a functional manner. According to this paragraph, experienced copywriters know that they require more than two-thirds of the knowledge that is given in the text, and the receiver of the text also needs more extensive knowledge so to understand the message of the initiator. The text needs to have the knowledge of the subject and not only the matter of the Ausgangstext. So they gather this knowledge from the
from the conversation lexicas or refer to the specialized books and articles so that they can deal with the areas in the sealed text. And when they develop an overview of the necessary details mentioned in the Ausgang text and the subject area, then they can represent the information and facts fairly in the sealed text.
Mm. Deepti, what I have noticed while you were presenting, that you have read it, but and also tried to find meanings, etc., of the words. But I need some examples. For example, when you say Konversationslexiker, what is meant by a Konversationslexiker? Can you give an example? Anyone, do you have an idea what is a Konversationslexiker? So when see the difference between a bachelor and a master's is also where you start getting independent and you look up things. I mean, let's say I don't know what is a Konversationslexiker. Now that you are responsible for this part of the text, you have to be able to tell me what it is. A good guess, but unfortunately, that is not what it means. If you look it up, even if you were to look it up in Wikipedia, these are like what we call, I'm sure you all have come across Encyclopedia Britannica or Kindler's Lexicon or Brockhaus Encyclopedia. What are inside, or for that matter, even Wikipedia. Uh, Although Wikipedia is a digital form in that sense, but what I mean, what is the function of Wikipedia or a Encyclopedia Britannica or a Brockhaus? What do they do?
Sie geben uns mehr Information über ein Thema.
Ja, und also Wikipedia hat Informationen über alle möglichen Themen. Encyclopedia Britannica hat Informationen über alle möglichen Themen. So, das ist kein Fachlexikon. So you see, na, here they have mentioned, na, das können für die erste Textaufbereitung Artikel aus Konversationslexika oder Fachlexika sein. So when you start your translation and you want to have Sachkenntnisse on your text, one of the first places you could look is a Konversationslexikon oder ein Fachlexikon. And then je nach Weite und Umfang des notwendigen Wissens Fachbücher und Fachartikel. So there might be something, let's say you have to translate a text on open heart surgery. Maybe Wikipedia or one of the Conversations lexicon will be able to give you a general idea of open heart surgery. But maybe your text is very, very specific about a particular angle, a particular aspect of open heart surgery. Then you might need to move to Fachlexikon or maybe a Fachbuch or Fachartikel. So these are all your Hintergrundtexte. What do we mean by Hintergrundtext? Deepti?
Yes, ma'am.
What
Yes.
do we mean by Hintergrundtext?
Ma'am, maybe the supporting text which help us to, for example, जो हमारे पास जो आउटकम टेक्स्ट है उसकी जो हमें हेल्प करे, दैट इज द इंटरग्रुन टेक्स्ट. कि
Very
अगर
good.
कुछ प्रॉब्लम
किस
हमें
सेंस में हेल्प करे?
अगर कुछ भी वर्ड्स हमें सर्च करने हैं, कुछ उससे रिलेटेड किसी स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक से रिलेटेड इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए वो हमें हेल्प कर सकता है टेक्स्ट।
लैंग्वेज के लिए या कंटेंट के लिए?
कंटेंट और लैंग्वेज दोनों के लिए।
अगर हम लोग ये देखें यहाँ पे, अगर सबसे पहले जाए ज़ाखविसन एवर्ब, अगर हमें कंटेंट समझना है कि किस बारे में बात हो रही है, हमें अपनी नॉलेज उस सब्जेक्ट में बढ़ानी है टू बी एबल टू ट्रांसलेट, देन वी लुक फॉर हिंटरग्रुंड टेक्स्ट। ठीक है। और
ओके।
स्प्राखविसन एरवर्ब मतलब हमें लैंग्वेज, जो हम, एक तो हुआ कि हम समझ रहे हैं पढ़ के, दूसरा हुआ अब हमें उसको ट्रांसलेट भी तो करना है ना। हो सकता है हमारे पास उसके लिए वो लैंग्वेज हो ही नहीं, अवेलेबल ही नहीं हो। व्हाट हेल्प्स देयर? देयर
Parallels.
the parallel text help us.
Yes.
Okay, that is the main difference between hintergrund text and parallel text. Hintergrund text give us provide us knowledge about the subject matter. Parallel text provide us knowledge about the language that we need to translate the text. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. हाँ, yes, Gautam. Right now? Yes, I mean, the difference between a Konversationslexikon and Fachlexikon is a Konversationslexikon is more general in nature. It would have topics related to, for example, literature, history, politics, science, then ecology, etc., etc. So what I meant was very general in nature. A Fachlexikon would be for a particular domain. Let's say Kindler's Literatur lexicon. Is it a Konversationslexikon or a Fachlexikon? What do you think? Kindler's Literatur lexicon.
Park lexicon, it's for a particular stream.
Yes. So that is the difference. Whereas a Brockhaus encyclopedia is for a general subject matter.
General. Yes.
So that is the difference, Gautam, between Fach lexicon. Yes, one can say that. Ja, in dem Sinne. Oder für diejenigen, die sich für das Thema interessieren. Okay, wollen wir dann weitergehen? Hat jemand Fragen an Deepti? I hope all of you have read this text, because this is our chance to, ask questions, get our doubts cleared, give, inputs, give examples. What I said was Kindler's Literatur lexicon. It is the name of a lexicon. And because, I mean, it only deals with literature, that is why it can be called a Fachlexikon. No questions? Tell me honestly, did you all read the text at home yesterday? Try doing it And this wasn't a very long text, or was it? How many pages were there?
2 pages.
Yeah. So that much should be, and I don't think the language was that difficult. Now try to get into the habit of reading, please. I'm sure your other teachers are also expecting that from you. Or am I the only one?
No, we get lots to read.
So then, even for this course, a bit of reading is needed, because we are not just, I mean, see, even to be able to translate, to do practice, what we were talking about yesterday, theory is needed, isn't it? To be able to talk about how you have translated, what you need to translate, all the, I mean, did you all, I mean, most of us have always thought that only a dictionary is needed to translate. But don't we need other Hilfsmittel? Other, I mean, let's take the example of a carpenter. Does he only work with a hammer, or he needs other tools as well? So, and he has knowledge about his tools, no? He when to use which tool. So, isn't it important for you as prospective translators to know what are the tools that are available to you, and where which tool is needed for what purpose? If you want to, for example, let's take your translation as a piece of wood. And if you have, first of all, what would you need to cut the wood into shape? I'm sure all of you have observed carpenters working sometime or the other.
The necessary tools, the information, how to cut it.
Yes, so you first have to cut your piece of wood, no? So what would you need to be able to cut your text, to be able to reach into your text? Which tool would you need?
Information, knowledge about it.
Yes, so you would need your Sachwissen erwerb first of all. Yeah? What is this text talking about? And please remember, I mean, um, what is, I mean, what we, to be a translator, it is a given that you have good language, you know. So when you get a text, you don't first start looking up words in the dictionary. First of all, you try to understand what is the subject matter of the text, Sachwissen. And it is later when you start doing the translation, maybe there are some words that you need to look up, or before you start doing the translation, you prepare your glossary. But first of all, you need your Sachwissen. If you have no knowledge of open heart surgery, you can't possibly start translating before reading a bit about open heart surgery. Okay, so let's move to the next part. If there is nothing here, Kenntnis des Übersetzungsinitiators. I think that is yours, Nidhi, or whose is it? Yeah, Gautam. Sorry, it is yours, no? Yeah, please. Yeah. Uh, so exactly. I mean, danke, Gautam. Um, I mean, this example is quite pertinent to show how what kind of a research a translator is expected to undertake. So when you, I mean, you might get one uh, Weber text. You might be expected to translate that, a short little thing, two-liner. But what you need to understand is what is the marketing strategy behind it? Why have they, and what were the other? Because, I mean, if you look at, for example, the cola advertisements, there have been different cola advertisements. So they follow a certain pattern. You have to, as a translator, you need to understand that also. What was the pattern? How does this particular advertisement fit into that series? All that is important. This, so you don't just translate a text, two lines, but of course, I mean, to be able to translate those two lines, you have to be able to understand the whole background of that campaign, of that advertising campaign. What was the marketing department thinking of? How is it? And then, of course, if you're translating it from one language, from one culture into another, you have to keep that in mind as well. So I mean, what this text does, and what I hope the other texts that we would be dealing with in the course of this semester, sensitize you to the fact that translation is not just about finding suitable words, but a lot more. And that is what you get paid for. So a good translator demands a good price, but for that good price, good money, he or she does a lot of work also. And of course, the whole world is full of bad teachers, bad translators, bad whatever. But to be able to be a good whatever, you need to do some work. Yeah. Yeah. So it is also a moral, ethical question, also, no? That, I mean, where your job gets over and what you need to do for your job. Wer ist als Nächster dran?
From 1.3 is mine.
Yeah, Nidhi.
And Chef's. Yes.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so this paragraph talks about the knowledge of the target text recipient and its function field. So the area and the environment of the targeted text recipient can be determined with in three things. Like first is that the translator should be familiar with the socio-cultural area whose knowledge should not only be restricted to the language system, but also one should have the knowledge of the language area in particular. Second is that the technical and the factual environment of the recipient should be very specific in order to obtain very precise information. And third is that the industry knowledge, skills in brochure, advertising, or scientific publication, as well as official text production, may have to be reworked upon. Then this subheading also includes information about the position of the recipient in relation to the initiator of the translation. For example, whether the recipient is a member of a subsidiary or a representative company, or a customer or a competitor or a long-term business partner, the translator must be well informed about all these things so that his text has the appropriate tone and it functions properly.
Moreover, the circle that encloses the recipient and his environment is the area of individual education and training. For example, ma'am just mentioned that in order to translate a text of something related to open heart surgery, one must be well aware and have the knowledge of what open heart surgery is in order to proceed with the translation. Then the targeted audience of the text can be of very decisive information, like whether the text is written for a highly specialized person or for a specialist who has a broad educational horizon, and also whether the text is appearing in a mass newspaper or a magazine. So all this plays a very vital role. So all this, the first paragraph talks about this, and now Steph will continue with the second paragraph.
Thanks, Didi. And once staff is through, then we will discuss the whole paragraph.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Second paragraph I will describe. जो एवरी केस जो भी एवरी केस में जो हमारा जो मेन पॉइंट है, मतलब जो बैकग्राउंड है या जो उसमें मेन पॉइंट है, हमें ना वो उसे वो हाईलाइट करना चाहिए। एंड वो तो या तो किसी मतलब ये तो वो स्टार्टिंग में भी हो सकता है, मतलब जो पैराग्राफ है उसके स्टार्टिंग भी हो सकता है, जिसलिए हम उसे मतलब टेक्स्ट को हम वो हेल्थ मिडल के टेक्स्ट के से बोल सकते हैं, जो हमारा इंटरग्राउंड को कनेक्ट करेगा, जिसकी पहली लाइन हमें डिसाइड करेगी कि हमारा जो एनालिसिस होगा या स्ट्रक्चर होगा वो कैसा होगा। एना एनालिसिस जो हमारा वो होगा वो किस जगह से पुट होगा और किस जगह पे पुट किया जाएगा। एंड सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट ये चीज़ है कि जो इंफॉर्मेशन है वो अपनी लैंग्वेज में, जो टेक्स्ट है वो अपनी लैंग्वेज में पढ़ना चाहिए अगर ये पॉसिबल हो। या तो उसकी जो टेक्स्ट है उसकी अगर ओरिजिनल लैंग्वेज मिल जाए, मतलब जिस टेक्स्ट में वो ओरिजिनल लैंग्वेज है अगर वो मिल जाए तो वो पढ़ना चाहिए, वो ज़्यादा बेटर होगा। एंड सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट ये भी हो सकता है कि हमें दो तीन लैंग्वेज में वो टेक्स्ट को पढ़ना पड़ जाए, अगर हमें जो उसकी नीड है, जो वर्ड है, जो वो हमें सही से नहीं मतलब प्राप्त नहीं मिल पा रहा है। अब जब हम एक टेक्स्ट को, जो उसका हिंटरग्राउंड टेक्स्ट है, उसको हम सब अपनी चीजें जो सही से एक जगह एडजस्ट कर लेते हैं, तो फिर हम उसे जो राइटर होता है या जो वो होता है, वो ट्रांसलेटर है, वो देखता है कि जो वर्ड हमने पुट अप किया है वो जो है वो सही वर्कआउट कर रहा है, वो इसे सही से डिस्क्राइब कर रहा है कि नहीं। उसके जो है वो ऊपर से जैसे एक बैकग्राउंड है, उसका कोई सेंस है, मतलब है, या भी वैसे ही रखा है। एंड एंड कुछ जैसे जो स्पेशलिस्ट होते हैं, जैसे सोकोलॉजिस्ट होते हैं या जो ये मोरलिस्ट होते हैं, इनको वो पूरी जो उनकी नॉलेज और उनकी जो मतलब जो थिंकिंग होती है उसके बेस पे टेक्स्ट को उसी तरीका से वो जो मतलब जो उनकी जो डिमांड होती है, जो उनको ट्रांसलेटर देता है, उसी तरह से उसको ट्रांसलेट कर सकते हैं। जैसा कि हमें बहुत सी जो आम आदमी होते हैं उसे बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, बट जो उनकी थिंकिंग और इनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग से वो इजीली उस टेक्स्ट को डील कर सकते हैं वो अच्छी तरीके से। मुझे इतना ही समझ में आया।
Thank you. So when we go back to what Nidhi had to say, just a minute. So of course, the translator needs to know where were we? Actually, Nidhi had already spoken about this. I mean, in the sense ki, I think Nidhi, you translated it and then read it out. But fair enough, if that is also helping us understand. What I wanted to point out here was, yeah, though you also did mention it, that I mean, it also depends on where is der Empfänger, and where is my text going to, for example, get published, or who is going to read it. So that, of course, makes a difference in how I translate. This is a point that I have been harping upon since the beginning. And then when we come to Saf's part, what I want to here highlight is, uh, which I think, Saf, you did mention, but I'm just repeating it. So, it is always easier to read the Hintergrund text in your own language because that is the language you are most comfortable with. Mm. So, in our case, that might be Hindi or English, but many a times they are not. It's not possible to get it in that particular language. Then you can then you start looking for it in, let's say, if you are translating, let's say, from uh, German into English, then you can also read them in German. And at times, even there, you might not get it. Then you start looking for another language. So basically, what this whole thing is saying is that egal woher du die Information bekommst, egal in welcher Sprache, du musst dich gut über den Sachverhalt informieren, um den Text richtig übersetzen zu können. That is one thing. And the second part, in the second uh, paragraph, the last paragraph, in fact, hat der Übersetzer sich über Hintergrundtexte das erforderliche Sachwissen verschafft, um seinen Auftrag in allen Dimensionen zu überblicken, so hat er sich auch die Kompetenz erarbeitet, zu beurteilen, ob die in der Nachricht des Ausgangstextes enthaltene Information zu einem im Sinne des Initiators funktionsgerechten Text in der Zielsprache hinreichend ist oder nicht. So if you have gotten enough understanding of the Sachwissen, of the Sachverhalt, then you are also able to judge what your initiator wants to happen with the text in the target language. For that purpose, whether the text that has been given to you is enough or not, or some kind of intervention is required from your side. Maybe some kind of a footnote or an explanation or something, you know. So, for you to be able to take those decisions as a translator, you also need to know your subject matter. And you also, again, I come back to that, you need to know why is the text getting translated? What is the purpose? Was ist der Zweck? Was ist das Ziel? Was ist die Funktion dieser Übersetzung? Ja? So, I mean, are we clear about what Hintergrundtexte are? Can someone sum it up? What is a Hintergrundtext in any language? Thanks. And why do we need it?
To be well informed about the topic which we'll deal with.
Okay.
And also to
To
mention the correct context in which we are translating the text.
Yeah, Deepti?
is to enhance the knowledge of the subject matter that we are dealing in our Ausgangs text. So to present the information in a better way in the seal text.
Okay. And let's say I don't do this background reading and I still get a text to translate. Uh, do you see any problem there? I mean, why should we do this? Why should we take up so much time to do this kind of research? Translation is, after all, just looking for words in dictionary and replacing one word with the word in another language, isn't it? Why should we bother?
Mm.
If we
because जो
invest, yeah, Deepti, go ahead, please.
या बिकॉज जो भी हमारा जो टेक्स्ट पढ़ रहा है वो उस ट्रस्ट पे पढ़ रहा है कि हमने जो उसे इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड की है वो बिल्कुल सही है। तो अपनी इस क्रेडिबिलिटी को मेंटेन करने के लिए हमें मतलब ये जरूरी है हमारे लिए कि हम जो इंफॉर्मेशन जो भी हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल सही हो।
तो क्या डिक्शनरीज सही इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं देती हैं?
Exactly.
Okay.
यस मैम, बट हमें किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में यूज करना है वो उसके लिए हमें बैकग्राउंड टेक्स्ट की नॉलेज होनी जरूरी है।
Okay.
And from
हाँ,
my experience, like if I relate to the experience, the two experiences which I had, either we invest time in Hintergrundtexte or we invest time, a lot of time in या तो वो टाइम हमें पहले इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ता है बिकॉज द कॉन्फिडेंस वी गेन कि हमने जो अभी गौतम ने एंड आई थिंक निधि ने बोला है कि एक वर्ड के बहुत सारे सिनोनिम्स होंगे, कौन से कॉन्टेक्स्ट में क्या मैच करेगा। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी विल नॉट हैव दैट कॉन्फिडेंस while translating it अगर हमने hintergrund text नहीं पढ़े हैं। like either we have to invest that time before translating in reading the hintergrund text, अगर हमने वो नहीं करा है, first of all we will not have the confidence that we are choosing the right word. Second, हमें वो time वहां पर invest करना पड़ेगा फिर वो words ढूंढने के लिए कि ये सही है या ये इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में मैच करता है या नहीं करता है। सो लाइक दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम विच आई फेस बिकॉज मैंने हिंटरग्रुंड टेक्स्ट नहीं पढ़े थे।
So actually, I mean, Hintergrund texts give you confidence, they save you time, and they, uh, they help you in your credibility as a translator. I think what you all have said, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, right. So I'm glad that that part is, at least that message has gone, across, has been conveyed. Let's go to the next part. Sprachwissen, yeah, Gautam? Yeah. Yes, that is what the text says, because that, see, we all call ourselves multilingual or polyglots or whatever, but there are certain languages where we are more comfortable maybe in reading, others where we are more comfortable in writing, others speaking, etc., etc. So what she's trying to say here is that one should try to read the Hintergrund text in the language one is most comfortable with, and that is usually our mother tongue, or in India, in our case, very often it could also be English, maybe because we have not read that kind of Hindi, I mean, I don't know how many of you have read about, let's say, open heart surgery in Hindi. Maybe you have come across articles on open heart surgery in English. So what she's saying is use it. I mean, get your knowledge through the language you are most comfortable with. But at times that might not be possible. Let's say I'm comfortable in reading in Hindi, but I find that when it comes to scientific matters, Hindi has lesser stuff than English. So I might shift to English. Or if I find that English is also not able to provide me that, let's say there has been some latest research on open heart surgery and that happened in Germany, and the article has been only, I mean, it has been reported in journals, German journals, then I would go and read there. So, I mean, what she's saying is that you have to inform yourself, preferably in your language. But if that is not possible, then you also go to other languages that you know. But you get your Sachwissen. And thankfully, in today's time, where we have also, I mean, she has written it. When was this written? I think it was 80s, where the World Wide Web was not so prevalent. Nowadays, I mean, our Hintergrundtexte can also be videos, you know, or films.
And I think it makes more sense because जो words right choose करने वाला चीज है that we can get from the parallel text also, but hintergrund text is like to get settled with the topic, to understand the topic. So that would be better if we do it in the language जो हमें खुद से समझ में आ रही है, जिससे पढ़ने के लिए हमें खुद बहुत ज्यादा रिसर्च नहीं करना पड़ रहा है या वर्ड्स नहीं ढूंढने पड़ रहे हैं, बिकॉज वो काम तो हमारा पैरेलल टेक्स्ट से भी हो जाएगा. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
क्योंकि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो हमें अपना कंफर्ट लेवल देखना है ना, and comfort is in the language which one uses mostly, na? And I mean, everything said and done, for most of us, German is a foreign language, and Hindi or English might be the uh, languages of comfort. Okay, danke, Chitwan. Wer macht Sprachwissenerwerb, Paralleltexte?
Ich und Pratibha.
Danke.
Okay, kann ich anfangen?
Ja, bitte.
Okay, so dieser Absatz beschreibt den Vorteil und die Wichtigkeit der Paralleltext in der Übersetzung. Paralleltext sind die Hilfstext oder Form der Lesung, bei der zwei Texte nebeneinander gestellt wurden, nämlich Fremdtexte oder Ausgangstexte und Zieltexte. Während die Übersetzung, wenn man eine Aufgabe hat, zum Beispiel welche Wörter zu benutzen, dann kann man andere bekannte Wörter von Zielsprache oder Zieltext benutzen. Zum Beispiel, wir haben viele Wörter wie Organisation, Agency, Community, wie Kontext einfordern können. Man kann das benutzen. Während der Übersetzung oder Lesung in verschiedenen Sprachen fühlen wir manchmal enttäuscht, weil wir keine Ahnung haben, was es bedeutet und wir auch uns in der Übersetzung verlieren. Auch wenn wir unsicher über einige Bedeutung des Wortes oder der Satz, wir können auch andere Wort benutzen, um unser Verstanden zu verbessern. Zum Beispiel, es gibt viele Wörter für Frau in Hindi, das heißt Mahila, Stri oder Aurat. Wenn man einen Satz, zum Beispiel First Lady PM of India, in Hindi übersetzen möchte, man muss benutzen भारत की पहली महिला प्रधानमंत्री, नेक्स्ट भारत की पहली औरत oder स्त्री महिला प्रधानमंत्री. Deshalb können wir sagen, die Paralleltexte in erster Linie Sprachmittel beschaffen wurden und auch der Kontext und Intention des Aufgangstexts spielt eine bestimmte Rolle. Wir haben auch ein Problem mit, wenn es gibt kein Wort in Wörterbuch. Wir können auch nicht gleich Wort in Wörterbuch finden. Zum Beispiel Namen der Organisation oder einiger Institution. Dann man kann das Wort gleich benutzen in der Übersetzung. Deshalb die Sprachmittel, die aus dem Paralleltext abgeteilt hat, teilen sich in Gruppen des Wortschatz und seiner Gebrauch in Texturmittel, um richtige Nachricht zu besagen. Das ist alles.
Okay, danke Sumit. Was ich Interessant fand, du hast ja dieses Beispiel von Mahila, Aurat und
स्त्री
Stri gegeben und dann auch den Kontext gesagt, gegeben, wo man sagt, Bharat ki pehli Mahila Pradhan Mantri und statt Aurat oder Stri.
या
So, das ist ja auch wichtig für den Übersetzer, ne? Dass man versteht, dass die Wörter auch im Kontext drin einen Platz haben. Und das müssen wir dann in Betracht ziehen und nicht einfach aus dem Wörterbuch die Wörter einsetzen. Und diese Möglichkeit bieten uns die Paralleltexte, wo man zum Beispiel Zeitungsartikel liest oder was weiß ich, wo es schon erwähnt wurde, ne? Dann weiß man, dass das ist die Tradition oder das ist die Konvention. Ja? Danke. So,
पीठ
Pratibha, möchtest du was hinzufügen?
यस मैम, मैंने हिंदी में किया है।
हाँ, जरूर।
किसी भी भाषा को जानने के लिए जो है वो हमारा हेल्प करता है पैरेलल टेक्स्ट। और इसका जो एम होता है या फिर मोटिव होता है वो होता है कि जो वो कहना चाहता है या फिर जो वो समझाना चाहता है वो संसाधनों के द्वारा जो टेक्स्ट कर रहा है और जो अपने विचार रख रहा है वो उस तक उसी रूप में पहुंचे जैसा वो लिख रहा है। और और जितना संभव हो सकता है वो बहुत सारे पहलुओं के की तलाश करता है, ताकि मतलब खोज करता है ताकि वो जो है टेक्स्ट को औरों के सामने जो है सेम वे में रखे। और दासी में
कोई एग्जाम्पल देना चाहोगी प्रतिभा? जैसे तुमने कहा कि जो पढ़ने वाले के लिए सेम वे में रखें, कैसे? कुछ जैसे सुमित ने एग्जाम्पल दिया, तुम्हारे दिमाग में भी कोई एग्जाम्पल है? या किसी और के दिमाग में कुछ आ रहा हो? Okay, let's move then to the next part, lexikalische Mittel. ये किसका था? Lexikalische Mittel. This should be yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lexicalische Mittel, basically, we all know lexical, the word itself means that it's related to words, or basically the vocab. So, lexical means is mostly used by the translators who work on a specific subject-based content. And the vocabulary can be borrowed from a similar language of content to be translated. For example, like ma'am used an example earlier, if we have to like translate a medical based text, so we have to use the specific vocabulary for the medical grounds, not like general vocabulary can be used in it. So whenever we use a dictionary, it can only bring meaning of words, or maybe bring new words like synonyms uh, during translations. But if we use parallel text before translating it, uh, it can also bring certain type of grammar, phrases, illustrations, and combinations required for the content. Using this method can bring a new tone to the target text, which we are trying to translate in another language.
Yeah, I like this part. I mean, I found this part relevant where you said that it also gives you the combinations. What are the typical phrases which are used in a particular um, um, kind of subject matter? So that also that a dictionary might not be able to provide you with that. Of course, there are these Übersetzer Wörterbücher, which are much, let's say, which are much more How does one say umfangreich in English?
Yeah, yeah.
What is the English word for umfangreich? Mm.
Extensive.
Yeah, which are much more, thanks, Chitwan, much more extensive than your normal dictionaries. But still, parallel texts give you also an idea of how, you know, uh, they are used and where they are used, etc. And it was towards the end of this part where there is this thing. She mentions how in Finland uh, there was someone who did a whole translation through wie ein ganzer Zieltext aus Teilen verschiedener Paralleltexte zusammengesetzt werden kann. So how people have managed to do that. But of course, that is an extreme example. But yeah, parallel texts give you the, I mean, you have now, let's say, gained your confidence through the Zach text. Now, parallel text will give you the confidence of how to say it in your language, you know, where you don't, if we go back to Chitwan's example of, marketing text, a marketing text on leather, a parallel text will also give you things like how others have done marketing for leather, or what is the marketing language like, what kind of phrases are commonly used. And especially when one is translating from the language which one is comfortable in into the language which one is not particularly comfortable in, your parallel text will help you, will give you that confidence. And otherwise also, I mean, either ways. um, Chitwan, I hope you don't mind my taking that example again and again,
No,
but
no,
this is
not at
just
all. It reminds me of the nightmare.
no, and I think I have shared with you all how, I mean, the kind of overconfidence I had when I was doing my graduation from JNU, and I got this text to translate into, you know, German, and where I just thought key dictionary, and where I didn't even know how the language works, like, how there are these sometimes they are composita, but sometimes there are words which are words in themselves, like rapeseed oil. It is not here, the composita is not rape and seed, but rapeseed and oil. So how to work with dictionaries, that is also something we need to know as translators, you know. Otherwise, you know how fatal your translation can be. And what helps you there? Your parallel text. Yeah. So, I mean, this research is needed, believe me. Otherwise, you will become terrible translators like I was earlier. Yeah. Okay. Let's move to Rishubi. You are through with your parallel text.
Mhm.
Now we have these pragmatische aspect. Nee, we still have textuelle Mittel. Who's dealing with that?
Yes, I, Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry.
Yeah, guten Morgen. Uh, in this text, we will be learning that how the parallel text helps in translation. So, in this parallel text is important because that will help in using of idioms, metaphor, and vocabulary. So, with the help of the vocabulary, the targeted text are easily to understand and acceptable because it fulfills the standard and expectations. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, I got distracted for a minute. Uh, Can you please just sum it up once again? I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no problem, ma'am. So in this parallel text, it is important. Parallel text is important because that will help in using of idioms, metaphor, and vocabulary. So with the help of vocabulary, the targeted texts are easy to understand and acceptable because it fulfill the standards and expectations.
What is meant here by Vertextungsmittel?
या मैम मैंने ये ढूंढने की बहुत कोशिश करी बट इसका मीनिंग मुझे कहीं नहीं मिला कि इसी का ही मीनिंग मुझे मिला
I know, हाँ, इसीलिए मैं भी पूछ रही हूँ. So here what they are saying is, for example, what they mean by Vertextungsmittel are alle Art von formelhafter Ausdrucksweise über Metaphergebrauch, Rhythmisierung, Einsatz korrespondierender Sprachmittel bis zu äußeren Textgestaltungsmitteln. So let's say you have to translate a Werbeinserat, a Werbetext, yeah. And we know that Werbetexte haben sehr oft Dinge wie Reime oder die sind rhythmisch oder die haben Metapher und so weiter. So wo können wir solche Dinge finden? Sind die dann in einem Wörterbuch drin oder muss man dafür was anderes suchen? Woanders suchen? Do normal
Kann man
dictionaries
das,
have, yeah, sorry, Chitran?
kann man das nicht in einem Paralleltext finden?
Ja, so was für, genau, und das, ja, aber was für Paralleltext wäre das dann? What kind of parallel text? Would it just, let's say, if you have to translate a Verbetext, what would be your parallel text for Verbetext?
Other Verbetext, the same
Yes.
type on the same product.
Yes, on the same product or yeah, a similar product, yes. Or it can also be, for example, uh, a songbook, can't it? Because that might also have your metaphors in it. It might have rhythm, etc. So what they are trying, or if let's say you have to translate a Lebenslauf, a CV, yeah. And are there different conventions in German, in a German CV and English CV? Or are they more or less same? Like I know that usually in English, in India at least, the CVs don't have a photograph, the passport photo, but German CVs usually do have a passport photo. Or am I mistaken?
We also have these days. The difference lies only that they have smiling photos, we have normal photos.
Okay. So it is so that is not something which the translator can change, but what the translator can do in this case is maybe advise the uh, initiator that maybe this kind of a photo would be better. Yeah. What about Familienstand in a CV? Do German CVs have Familienstand? I don't know.
I think they have.
Okay. So there is no difference there. But let's say there were some kind of outward differences. What would help us are these textuelle Mittel, where, so here when she's talking about this, na, uh, uh, äußeren Textgestaltungsmittel. So all these, I mean, she's now moving from the lexikalische Mittel to the textuelle Mittel, which are more non-linguistic in nature. That is what she's now, she's found this subcategory of parallel text. What do we mean by pragmatische aspect? What is pragmatic? That is a word which I always find, I mean, at least in the beginning, I used to find it very puzzling. What does the word mean? Pragmatic? Who did this? 2.3, or who is doing it?
Ma'am, I am doing it.
Okay. What does pragmatic mean, Trishula?
Ma'am, dealing with the things sensibly and realistically in a way that based on practical rather than theoretical consideration.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
Yes. So the practical aspects of the Vertextungsmittel. What are Vertextungsmittel?
Actually, I found this like ma'am texting means इसका मतलब ये आ रहा था.
And how do we see texting here? Do we read this texting from in today's context, where for us texting means कि एक दूसरे को message भेजना, or what is it here?
Mm,
Here basically it means for texten here is just a synonym for übersetzen.
okay.
Yeah. So why I'm pointing this out is because we know that words, their meanings also change over the years. Today when we say texting, we all know. I think Deepthi, yesterday this misunderstanding was there also, na, where you thought texting means आज के SMS भेजना.
That was for the word Nachricht, I guess.
Acha, okay. Right. So, but for texten also, it simply means here übersetzen. Thanks, Chitwan, for reminding me. Yeah, Trishla, let's hear you.
Uh, Pragmatic aspect of text means
Of
ma'am, should I
pragmatic aspects of different kinds of uh, texts. Let's put it as simple as that. Yeah.
different kinds of text, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, pragmatic aspect of different kinds of text. Ma'am, here is all different kinds of text in lexicons and text textures have different pragmatic aspects. You can, for example, convention specific, user specific, or communications situation specific. These three are the most important aspect of pragmatic text, like different kinds of text. And with certain text, the unsecure term type of text is deliberately avoided. It is a matter of observing conventions like elliptical language in the weather report, formalistic and polite language, as well as the issuing of invitations of diplomatic corps. and agreed language for resolutions of international bodies, usage of the text, arrangement in cooking recipes, etc. And such conventions can be the same or different from linguistic or language to a linguistic area. The translator must take both into account. And from a user specific point of view, text have certain characteristics that clearly distinguish them from one another with the same content. Think of dosage regulations and formulated by the pharmaceutical manufacturer for the doctor or for the patient on package insert, or the doctor communicates them directly to the patient. That's it.
So basically, what she is trying to say here is that one also needs, as we have now done the translation, let's say, or we are starting with the translation. We have made our glossary. This word means this can be used here, etc., etc. But there are also conventions in different languages about different kinds of text. So, for example, when we have a Wetterbericht, where you have, you know, longer elliptical expressions, or when we have uh, let's take a very simple thing, what she has also talked about here, Kochrezept. So, a Kochrezept in German and a Kochrezept in English, do they follow the same, or for that matter in Hindi, do they follow the same convention? Mm, uh, let's say a Kochrezept in German, what does it sound like typically? What structure is usually used? Passive or
Passive is
infinitive
used.
or uh, imperative? What is used?
Mm, passive, like whatever is there in the book. If there are some reception aspect, they are in passive.
But that is because they want to, practice passive.
Teach
Huh.
passive. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you look at Koch
Cock
recept
recept.
in,
Yeah.
let's say, online, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let me just show you something. Uh, Chef Koch, let's take that as our example and take a, okay, Rezept des Tages. Why am I not? Or others can also look in the meantime. Why am I? Huh. Yeah, I have it here. Just a second. So what do you see here? Which form do you see?
Stichpunktartig, nicht volle Sätze.
Aus Eiklar fest in Schnee schlagen, Dotter mit Zucker cremig rühren, dann Salz einrühren, dann unterheben, braten. So Infinitivsätze, ja,
Mhm. Und Subjekt fehlt.
ja.
Das ist selbstverständlich. Ja.
Mhm. And now what would be my parallel text if I want to check whether okay. So what? How do I know which is the convention? I mean, I will obviously look not at one site but many sites to kind of reach my conclusion. So here, what do I see? Is it a similar structure?
Mm,
This is like an imperative sentence. The verb is written on the first place.
Yeah. So then, what is your, I mean, how is this parallel text different from, let's say, a parallel text where I am, looking upwards? What is the function of this parallel text?
But I have a doubt. Shouldn't
Yeah,
this be considered as a hintergrund text because it is there in our own language?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Yeah. Because see, you are going to translate it into English, no, from German to English.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I mean, where will,
Yes.
in which language will you need the parallel text?
Hmm. In English. Yeah.
To know how the recipes in English are translated. What is the convention of this text sorter?
Hmm.
And
For
if you
example,
yeah,
yeah, the ingredients there, they were written in a line, one after another. This is more sorted, like everything is written in, is not written in one line after, then another line, and then there's a picture, you're focusing on it, so I think so, like
no,
we
no, no, no.
can.
I was not for. I was just, yeah. But you're right about how the recipes are. So even these things, um, or even how at times, let's say, if you were translating it for a US, reader, the measures are very often different. Like here, you see 1 quart. The measurement is different. I don't know quart. You know, so you need to look up that also. So there, now we come back to what uh, Trishla was talking about. So you have also things like geht es darum, Konventionen zu beachten, ja, und hier, for example, äh, auch verwenderspezifisch gesehen weisen Texte gewisse Merkmale auf. Who is the verwender? Is it written now for a US baker, or for an Indian baker, or a or someone else? So what kind of measurements will you use? ठीक है? That also you will get an idea from your parallel text. Are you all able to follow what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is where I mean, uh, so if we were trying to now sum it up before we go to the next part where I want you to translate something, uh, uh, what do you think? What is the purpose of a parallel text? Why do we need it? Right. So in a way, I mean, we also know that very often we come across this critique of translation that it read like a translation. ठीक है? And then the praise of a translation is that, wow, it read like original. So what your parallel text will also help you do is that it doesn't look odd. It fits into the language system of the target culture. Yeah. So I mean, it is in that sense uniform. It is homogeneous, and of course that. And how does it? How do parallel texts help translators in their translation? Maybe someone who hasn't spoken till now would like to say something. Shubhangi, for example.
I'm so sorry, I missed out what you just said.
Why do you think parallel texts are needed for translators?
Um, and with palette text too, we can have a good idea about the content and about the context as well. So
I think that
that is
is
why we
what your Hintergrund text does, to give you an idea about the content. What does the parallel text do?
vocabulary addition and the improvement in the language.
Okay. Uh, so why do I need a parallel text? Why can't I just take a dictionary and improve my vocabulary? What will the parallel text do which a dictionary won't be able to do?
A parallel text would give us the exact word, the correct word that should be used in the target language, because a dictionary has a lot of different words, synonyms, I can say, we can say, but when it comes to the parallel text, it gives the correct word that should be there.
Okay, so it helps us in finding the correct lexical words. Um, uh, does it do something more than just helping us find the correct words? Does it do other things as well?
It helps us to go into the shoes of the reader. Like जैसे आपने quotes का example दिया था. So like the right choice of words and like जैसे गौतम ने बोला था, I think जो हमारा seal group है हम उसके और पास चले जाते हैं. And like one more thing you mentioned, that it makes our text more uniform.
Hmm. Right. So, I mean, it sounds more like the so-called original. If a recipe were written, let's say, of on apple cake in English, our translated recipe would almost seem like that, or should seem like that. That is the idea. So our parallel texts help us not only in finding the correct terms, the correct words, but they also help us in finding the convention. I mean, how those texts are formulated in the target language. So, how a Wetterbericht in German might be differently formulated than a Wetterbericht in English, how a Kochrezept might be different, or for that matter, even a Lebenslauf, etc., etc. Okay, I would request you all to read the text once again with what we discussed today. And whenever we meet next, which will be our tutorial day, if there are any doubts that you want to raise, please raise them on that day. Don't just let it hang कि छोड़ो now कभी कर लेंगे. When it is fresh in your mind, then you can, relate to things better. Okay, now let me show you a text that I want you all to translate. I think with Gita, you all have been translating quite a bit. I will also now want you to, considering what we spoke about today, I want you to do a very short translation. Just a second. Yeah, here it is. I'll also upload it on Google Classroom, but I just want you to go through it once and tell me, after our discussion on these Hintergrund Texte and Parallel Texte, what would you do? Hier haben wir einen Lebenslauf, einen tabellarischen Lebenslauf von einem gewissen Martin Schwarz. Und wir wissen, also das Einzige, das ihr wisst, ist, dass dieser Lebenslauf sollte ins Englische übersetzt werden. Was für Fragen habt ihr als Übersetzer, bevor ihr diesen Auftrag durchführt? What will you ask your Auftraggeber?
For what purpose are we translating the text?
Okay, very
So,
good.
like,
Yeah.
if this person is applying, like this is written in German, so maybe this person is applying for a company in America or in India, then
Yeah.
we'll get to know what is the expectation of the reader.
Mhm.
And dementsprechend we will translate the text.
Okay.
Even the format can then change. For example, it is written tabellarischer Lebenslauf.
Yes.
Then maybe we can translate it in the way, or in the way the Lebenslauf are written in India or in US.
Okay. So let's say now we have found out that this text is going to be translated um, so that the HR department of a company can, decide whether this Martin Schwartz is suitable for the job. And this has to be, Martin Schwartz is applying, let's say, for a company in India. Okay, so what do we know now? So HR department, because he's applying, and it should be translated into English in India. So what do we have to now keep in mind? What kind of English will we use? Which English? American English, Indian English, British English?
British English.
Okay, fine, fair enough. British English, or there might be cases where the British qualification might not work for the Indian public or the Indian HR. So we need to look at that, whether the British education system is similar to the Indian education system or there are changes, and also compare that with the German education system. So where will we get all this information from? What will help us?
Hintergrundtexte,
Sehr gut.
and
Yeah.
then the second step after that, a parallel text.
Okay. So what I want you all to do today, I'm going to upload it now. I want you to translate this into English Der Auftrag ist, der Übersetzerauftrag ist, dass der Lebenslauf von Martin Schwarz sollte ins Englische übersetzt werden, damit er sich um eine Stelle in Indien bewerben kann. Ja? Is the auftrag clear? I'll write it in the Google Classroom also. And this is what we are going to discuss when we meet next time. What you will not just translate, you will also note down what kind of Hintergrund text did you refer to. Note down in the sense if you have used a link, please write that, etc. And what kind of parallel text did you use? Okay? And I mean, your translation should be, your text should be gestalted in the way a typical Indian CV looks like. Where I think, do we usually have it this way? First the information and then the date, or is it the other way around, or how is it?
Persönliche Angaben zuerst.
Ja, hier hat er keine persönlichen Angaben, weil er hat nur über Berufspraxis geschrieben und Ausbildung. Mit diesen Informationen solltet ihr den Lebenslauf ins Englische übersetzen und darauf achten, dass der Lebenslauf wie ein indischer Lebenslauf aussieht. Okay?
Ja.
Okay? So this is now going in Google Classroom. Anything else that you all would like to discuss?
We will be discussing this in tutorials class or the
Yes.
regular class?
No, tutorial class.
Okay.
In the regular class, we again start with the next text.
Okay.
So please be ready with it by Wednesday is when we have our tutorial. All right?
Okay.
And I'll write it in Google Classroom also. Please make a careful note of all the Hintergrund text and parallel text that you used. And other lexikalische Mittel. If you
One more thing.
Sorry?
And how much
One
time?
more thing.
How
Okay,
much
sure.
time? Sorry?
Should we take for this?
You see how much time? This is the beginning of your career. You note down. Just note down. I'm not saying how much time you should take or not to take. This is not a test, na? But this will help you. Noting down will help you to see whether through practice you eventually improve. Okay. Yeah. All right then. See you all on Wednesday.
Ma'am, I was asking something
Yeah,
before
Shubhangi,
just
please.
one. Yes, I was saying कि do we have to upload it या फिर we are going to directly discuss it?
No, upload it so that I can also take a look at it beforehand.
ठीक है.
Yeah. Anything else? Nothing. So we meet on Wednesday then. Cheers.
Ma'am,
Ja, Pratibha, bolo.
was ist die Abkürzung von Set und T?
Wo ist das?
Set T.
Nordex
Z.T.
SE. Okay. So where will you look it up? What do you do for that? What kind of research will you do?
Z और T. Set और T.
Zum Teil कहाँ पे है?
ये पैरेलल टेक्स्ट में. इसमें नहीं है.
कहाँ पे है? मैं एक बार देखती हूँ.
Sprachvision Verben अभी किया था हमने
हाँ,
उसमें.
एक
Seal
second.
text. Seal text. That is
अच्छा.
seal text.
अच्छा जो कैपिटल ZT है.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
हाँ,
yes.
वो सील टेक्स्ट है.
Thank.
ओके. एंड आटे क्या होता है?
Outcomes text.
हाँ.
Ja.
And what are the English Entsprechungen for Zieltext and Ausgangstext?
Source text and target text.
Targeted text.
Okay, ठीक है. Anything else? Bye. Tschüss.
Cheers, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Danke.
With